Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, over the years, there have been a lot of tough debates on the Senate floor, from health care to tax reform. There's no doubt that some days it feels impossible to get the majority of Republicans on board with policies that truly help the families we represent. But there is one thing that unites not only a large bipartisan contingent in Congress, but also the vast majority of American people. And that is finding a path forward for the estimated 800,000 young men and women whose lives are right now in limbo. 800,000 people, including nearly 17,000 men, women, and boys and girls from my home state of Washington, who shared their information, paid a large fee, and upheld their end of the bargain, only to have President Trump rip the rug out from under them 3 months ago when he and Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced the end of the DACA program. Mr. President, this Congress may not be able to change the Trump administration's hateful rhetoric or short-sighted policies overnight, but we can and we should pass the DREAM Act as soon as possible, and that's why we need more members of Congress on both sides of the aisle ready to roll up their sleeves and get this done. Because every single day that Republican leaders refuse to bring the DREAM Act to the floor to a vote, another 122 young people lose their DACA status, they lose their ability to work legally, and they lose their protection from deportation. That means every day, 122 of our neighbors, students, coworkers, friends could be forced from the only country they know, despite the promise the federal government made to them when they signed up for DACA. And despite their immeasurable contributions to our schools, our hospitals, our universities, our stores, our farms, our churches, and our offices, and so much more. That means small and large businesses are forced to lay off DACA recipients each day, vital employees that businesses have invested money in to train and support, employees that help our economy and the small business in my state grow. My friends on the other side of the aisle are constantly claiming they want to help our small businesses grow. I listened to weeks of their speeches on this as they tried to justify the tax bill. But instead of a giveaway to the wealthiest 1%, one way my friends across the aisle could actually help small businesses is to bring the DREAM Act up for a vote. Now, this morning, I had the great honor of sitting down with dreamers who traveled all the way here from my state across the nation to fight for action. Young people who had no control over how they came to this country, but have made conscious choices to improve their own lives and make life better for their own community. They are passionate, they are frustrated, and their stories need to be heard. Here is just one of them. Paul was brought here to this country at the age of 7 to be reunited with his father. Paul excelled in school in Pasco, Washington, not far from where my own dad grew up. Paul and his parents worried that despite Paul's success in K-12, going to college, starting a career might be impossible. But DACA provided him and his family with stability. Paul went to Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington as a double major in political science and economics, and he now works in our state legislature. Now, with DACA in question, it's not just Paul who isn't sure what comes next for him, but also his younger brother, Jose. Jose, who was only 2 years old when he came here. He grew up seeing what Paul, his older brother, was able to achieve. He saw that DACA allowed Paul to live without that constant fear. Jose was ready to follow in Paul's footsteps and enroll in the DACA program so he could pursue his dream of an engineering degree at the University of Washington. Now, if Congress doesn't act, we will have one less engineer in this country. Mr. President, Paul and Jose are just great examples of dreamers who have worked hard, they have aimed high, and they participate in their community and our economy, making our country a better place. This country should be rolling out the welcome mat to our dreamers, not slamming the door shut in them. And that's why I'm here today with my colleagues, to echo their fear and frustration on the floor of the United States Senate and to call on Republican leaders to work with us. Stop letting so many promising young men and women fall off the rolls of this program each and every day. Stop kicking this can down the road. Come together to do what is right for these young people. Ending the DACA program is not what our country is all about. It doesn't do anything to fix our immigration system, prepare for our future, or grow our economy. Ending DACA won't heal the divisions we've seen in our communities or make them any easier to fix. And ending the DACA program certainly doesn't reflect a country of opportunity or promise, something the U.S. has always aspired to be. I urge my colleagues here in the Senate and over in the House, think about the communities you represent. Think about the young men and women who are currently studying for finals, or caring for our sick, or teaching our children, or responding to natural disasters, or opening businesses in the communities you travel to and live in. Think about the young men and women who hope to serve in our military and defend your freedoms someday. Think of the dreamers who've grown up in our country and whose children are the future of our nation. Think about how much good we could do for these young men and women if my Republican friends brought the same commitment and zeal to this task as they did to their tax bill. And finally, work with Democrats to find a real solution to end this unnecessary uncertainty. Mr. President, I want to thank Paul as well as all the other advocates from my state who I met with in my office this morning, and the many thousands of others who are showing up in every way that they can do to make their voices heard and call on us here in Congress to act. Dr. Martin Luther King once said that justice too long delayed is justice denied. And dreamers are not asking for anything other than what we have promised to them. This is an incredibly difficult and uncertain time for so many people. But dreamers need to know, many of us in Congress and so many across the country have your back. We will get this done. We have to get this done. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.